Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and if you're new, welcome. We're out of the large compost pile, our Champagne compost heating. We've just inoculated this pile and covered it with leaf bags. We threw a bunch of nitrogen rich material, a whole bunch of slurry of basically chicken poo, a little bit of urine, and a bunch of coffee grounds that we had saved. So we threw about 5, 6, maybe 7 buckets of all of that slurry up on top of this, and then we threw all our leaf bags on here to get them insulating the outside and the top. And I saw a little bit of steam when I pulled this off, and that is reading a little over 100, about 105, and that is not the center of the pile. This thing only reaches in about 2 feet, 2.5 feet maybe, so that is certainly not the extent of the heat coming off of that. That is starting to build up. We just kicked our systems on inside the greenhouse here. As the snow's starting to fall and winter really set in here, we've got nothing but freezing temps. So having all of this compost heating is going to benefit us in the long run here. I just wanted to show what we've done and what we're doing. So I did not have these systems running overnight. I basically just set them up yesterday, day 1 after we had built this pile. We're halfway through day 2, and I've inoculated and insulated half the pile. I'm gonna cover that back up till I get the rest of the leaf bags I need to insulate the rest. So coming down to the water here, we're not quite flowing a gallon per minute, and I can hear our little pump down in there really struggling, and that is a 20-year-old pump. So what I'm gonna do is swap that pump out and see what kind of flow we're gonna get. So I got my pump switched over here. I've got my old little fish pump, and this thing, it was all busted at the bottom. This is the intake. I just had a little foam piece over it to keep it from sucking anything in that's too big or debris that could break it. So this thing has ran religiously, and it still works and operates. It's just not at full capacity. So I had just thrown this together and connected the wires, and I basically got it rigged to a tester switch I've got here. So it's pulling so much energy right now because I had my solar panel covered in snow. So I basically just drained my whole battery system when I was messing around with this. I'm still getting some water flow here, and it is better water flow than I was getting. So we're definitely pushing a gallon a minute. Looks like the pump shut off. Ran enough for a little visual of how much water we're flowing, and that water's warmed up. It's decently warm. Like I said, I just turned this on, and the water coming out of there's about 10 degrees warmer, and that's right off the bat. And there was no water sitting in our copper tube. The copper tubing's wrapped all around that pole, so all of the water will run back down and be level, as low as it can be with all of the water in here. So we won't be containing all of the water in that pile. We're forcefully pushing it through and then back in. So being able to throw 10 or 12 degrees off of this water right away is awesome. That tells me that I've got everything working. I've just got a few bugs to work out, like with our water pump and getting this hardwired. I just got all this haphazardly wired. This is my on-off switch right now, just a dead wire, a tester wire. So I'm gonna turn that off, and starting to build up again. I cleared off all the snow from the solar panel, and it is starting to really recharge these batteries. But we've got an extremely cloudy day. It's snowing, it's overcast, it's basically dark all the time anymore, and I'm just trying to work out all the bugs before I get all this running full scale, and we'll bring a final product to everybody. You can hear my fan kicking on and off. It's just running off that tiny little motorcycle battery there, and it's basically just got enough to keep it going and then shuts it down. So I need a larger battery bank on that so I can run that air throughout the entire night here. And I noticed that the longevity for my run times on all of these solar items is much greater when I have a deeper or a bigger solar cell to bank on. Just wanted to share this update with everybody as we have a snowy day. I couldn't get a whole lot done outside, and last night we just finished setting all of this up, got all of our connections made. I may even come through and undo my threadings and basically just throw some pipe tape on those, because I noticed that my lower one still has a drip every once in a while. But for the most part, those compression fittings and the shark bite worked wonderfully. They did exactly what they were supposed to, and I basically hooked up all that copper tubing that was on that pole throughout the entire greenhouse. I'm able to run that hot water, transfer some heat through my PEX tubing, and then dump it back into this tank and keep a large hot tank of water the entire winter while continuing to blow air, even if it's just a little bit at a time. For right now, once I replace the battery, we should be in better shape to run this throughout the night. Or I may hook this up to a timer, that way I can run this every half hour for 24 hours, and then I have a little bit more longevity to the system also, because I have a half-hour downtime of every hour, so I can physically feel the warm air blowing up out of here. When I was sitting here checking out the water and setting all this up and hooking my pump up, I could physically feel the warm air coming out of this tube. Got like 60-65 degree air blowing in when that turns back on, and there it goes. We're only sitting about 29-30 degrees outside. We got snow coming down and winter is here. So if anyone's got any questions up to this point, I'm kind of just sidestepping my way through this whole process until I bring a final product. I wanted to share every little detail basically, and all of the kinks that I gotta go through, and all of the modifying and figuring out of all the contraptions and devices that I'm using here. I want to thank everybody for watching these videos, checking out all of this self-sufficiency and DIY solar John Payne compost heating.